everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's vlog, we will get started with the Alice TBR. I'm gonna give my dog a bath actually, and I'm gonna get started with listening to the audiobook of Queen of Hearts, which is the prompt with a heart at the cover. So I'm just gonna be listening to that while I gave him a bath. I'm gonna groom him. I obviously can't go out so that he gets like professionally groomed. So I'm gonna have to do my best and see how that turns out. So let's get started.
Apple Audio presents Queen of Hearts by Colleen by Readathon. I know, by Lewis Carroll.
In a different kingdom, and she's like on her way there to the crown prince. And does someone want to maybe discuss his?
Well, hello everyone. So today is day 2 of the magical readathon, and I finished my first book, which was for Ancient Runes. I read The Queen of Hearts by Colleen. I read a bunch of it from the audiobook on script, and the other part I was reading it as an ebook because I do not own a physical copy of it. I feel bad because I'm about to completely butcher this book, to be honest. I mean, it was not all bad, but I really thought that I was gonna be not ending the book. I really thought that it was going to be the perspective of the Queen of Hearts inside the Alice in Wonderland world, but it really felt like something completely different. Why am I saying this? First of all, if you're taking the story from the very beginning, before we met Alice, before she gets into Wonderland, of the Queen of Hearts, and you are assuming, number one, that Wonderland actually exists, that it is a place and that it's got all of this history behind it, I was a little bit troubled by that, and I didn't love it as much. It just felt wrong. There were also some inconsistent things about it. For example, it is already called Wonderland. The idea of this place is that Alice, we don't know, we can argue if she's actually traveling to this place or if she's dreaming about this place. I'm more inclined to believe that she's actually dreaming about this place. You can read a lot about the inspiration of Alice that Lewis Carroll that took from someone, of a family member. So if you think all of the factors, or if you take all of those factors into consideration, I do believe that Wonderland is not an actual place. So to write this book, you're assuming and you're saying and stating that it is actually a place that exists, which I didn't like. Everything felt completely wrong, because when you go into Wonderland with the actual books, you see that you are in a really insane, crazy, unrealistic place where you cannot just see heads or tails of these amazing Wonderland, it is exactly that. And that's why Alice calls it Wonderland. So we are reading from the perspective of the Queen of Hearts before she is crowned. And we don't see this place. We see it as a normal place. I didn't like the fact that she tried to... I felt like she tried to put Wonderland in our world, so she tried to make it a little bit more realistic. There is the mention of religion, which is not a huge thing in the plot or anything like that, but it is mentioned. It is put there into the world, as well as the Queen of Hearts seeing that everyone in the realm works as if it were an actual place and an actual society, within our world. I was not really angered by it, but I was really unhappy about all of these decisions. So the first half of the book, I really didn't like the fact that Diana, who's the Queen of Hearts, actually, because she's taking a character that is a villain, a really big, awful villain who's beheading people, creating chaos, a horrendous queen, and I think she's just making her a victim. Obviously, we see that she has a really awful father, the King of Hearts, who is just the worst thing ever, and you know that at the end she's gonna become that. I mean, if that is the purpose of the book, that she wants to tell the story of how she goes from a nice human being and then she sees her father with all of this hatred and she becomes that, she turns into that, she's doing a really good work. Obviously, I just read the first book, this is a trilogy, so I might change my mind. I thought it only could go into directions. Either it was going to be a really funny read, it was going to be hilarious, and I was going to be laughing out loud a lot of the time, or it was going to be really dark, really gruesome. And the first half of the book was neither of those things. It was just purely YA. To me, nothing made sense. The way that she was acting was totally... I didn't thought the Queen of Hearts... The point of the book, I do get that it's the way that they are turning this little kid, because basically she's just a little kid, and they turning it into a monster at the end of the trilogy. I think that's where the author is going, but I didn't like the idea, and I hate it when authors do this, when they sort of make them the victim, and they try to make it so that you're actually rooting for them and wanting them to succeed, and I just don't like that, because I don't care how much trouble she's in or how much trauma she has to endure. I don't think that you should put such a horrible villain, such a horrible character, and make her like the victim, or make excuses for her to behave a certain way. So those are the things that I didn't like. I was really not liking the first half of the book, but then it turned really dark, extremely gruesome, and I did really enjoy that, because I thought, okay, if you have this really innocent, really small character and you're trying to make her such a huge crazy villain, then you really need this to be really gruesome, really crazy, really fast, which is what the author actually did. So I was happy about that. And I really think that the only way for her to successfully turn this little girl, Dinah, into the Queen of Hearts is if she makes her go absolutely insane. Be that way because of trauma or because she was a victim, but just do something to the character that just completely makes her crazy and insane. I think that's the only way to save this one up. Will I be reading the rest of the trilogy? Probably, because I really, really don't like to leave things unfinished. Like, if I start a series, if I start a trilogy, I need to see it through the end. So I will continue. It's not all bad. It has really it is a YA book, so obviously it's not going to be the most amazing book in the world, but yeah, I had a little bit of trouble. I think it was because I was comparing it and I was trying to make it fit into the world that Lewis Carroll created, and I don't think that you should see it as that. I think you should see it as inspiration from those characters bring into something completely different and thrown into this. I would say it's more of a thought experiment, because you're putting these characters saying, first of all, why if Wonderland was actually a place, what would have happened for this character to become such a horrendous villain? If you see it that way, I think it would make a little bit more sense. I also thought that the characters were fitted more with the movies. If you watch the movies with Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter and Helena Bonham Carter as the Queen of Hearts, I think you could fit this narrative more in there, but I don't think if you go to the actual books you will be able to do that, because you would just be really, really frustrated like I was. I just had to put it into my mind that it was not the same Wonderland that you read in the books, but it was a total different thing. And if you read it like that, it starts making more sense. So if you're going into this thinking that you are going to get the story of like the books, of the Lewis Carroll books, you won't. So I finished that. That's the point, right? I finished that. It was really great. At the end, it did got me hooked, and I do want to continue reading it. I don't want to say that it's a really bad book, because again, I think the way that you go into it with the expectations that you go into the book are really important. Also, if you want to read the audiobook, the narrator, what is her name? Moira Quirk. She is absolutely amazing. Totally recommend the audiobook. I did listen to most of the book there, but I just ended reading the ebook because it's faster to read it than to listen to it, at least for me. I think I can get started with my Astronomy Owls. For that, I'm reading the second book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This one is called The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. I love Douglas Adams. I just think that the way that he manages to make these really crazy, illogical ideas, he puts that into a story, into a conversation, and makes them make sense, which is crazy. It's hard to explain the way that he writes, but it is definitely a really unique way to tell a story. I think this is definitely sci-fi. I know a lot of people would say that it is also fantasy. I don't really think it is. I feel like it is more sci-fi, and I absolutely love this. I did read the first book maybe even a couple of years ago, so a while ago, but I do remember. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get all cuddled up in my bed and read this till I fall asleep, and we'll see how far I can get with this. This is about 200 pages, 240 something pages, so really also a small read, really small book. So I guess I'm hoping that I can get this through to at least tomorrow morning before the sun rises. So let's do it. started with the first chapter and this is already so good. I mean, there is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. I know this is going to be a good one already, so. Hi everyone, so it's day 4, I should say night 4 of the Magical Readathon, and I thought I'll just pop up real quickly to show you my reading situation. So I finished the second book, which was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is the second book, which is called The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. I had so much fun reading this. I read it in a couple of nights, so the first night that you saw me reading this, I read about halfway through this, and then last night I read about almost the rest of it. I was just missing about 20 pages, which I read a few hours ago, so I finished this fairly quickly. I was enjoying this so much. Douglas Adams has this really witty, really clever way to explain things. It reminds me a little bit of Foundation by Isaac Asimov. I have that book right there, but the writing style is completely different. It's just the idea of the book that remind me of it a little bit, because they are both sort of exploring this possibility of this, I was gonna say world, but more of this universe where we are seeing what would happen if it's not just our little world, but all of the galaxy and then all of the galaxies around it. Like, how would we fit in there, how our world fit in there, and then how would we control everything, who would be our leaders. And so this is really funny, really witty, really light and relaxed. Foundation is really about politics, and it just feels a little bit more real. This one is just for fun. It explores it, but in a really unrealistic, fun way, which I really do enjoy. The sci-fi on this is pretty cool and really incredible. There are some times where you just have to stop reading and think about it. For example, there's this spaceship that they encounter, and it's completely black, completely smooth, and they try to touch it, and it feels, or it seems like they can't, but what really is going on is that it's actually frictionless. So if you don't have friction in an object, how would that feel like? Like nothing at all. So there's these little things of science that really make you think and really make you wonder, which is brilliantly done. I loved it. I cannot wait to continue with this series. I think there's 5 books, but yeah, 5 stars, completely recommend. Also, the ending was really great, and I cannot wait what's going to happen next. So that was The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and then I did start it, They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Where do I even start with this book, honestly? I knew from the very beginning that I was not going to be a huge fan of this book. And let's talk about the good aspects of this. So I think what the author is trying to do is put you in this situation or in this mentality and make you think, well, what if we knew we've got a head start the date that we were going to die. So at like 12 p.m. or very early in the day, you get a phone call and they tell you you are going to die today. What would you do in this situation? And sort of make you think of these basically of life and how you're living your life, what you're doing, are you happy, are you not, all of these aspects. And I think he's doing it really well, and I do really enjoy that he's talking about it, that he's taking this aspect, this thought, and just placing it in a book is really fantastic. I love the idea. That is doing really great. However, and I think this is why I don't like most romance books, I'm barely in it. I've read about 20% of the book. I do not like one of the characters. We have two main characters. They are both males. I think they're 17, about to turn 18, and they get the phone call saying that they're going to die in the next 24 hours. Now, one of the characters, it's okay. He is, I think, suffering. It's not explicitly said, but I think it's kind of depressed. His mom passed away, and then his dad is in a coma. So yeah, obviously he's in a really bad situation in life and just getting this call. And how he's handled it, he's a really shy person. He doesn't do much, and you can see that he is regretting that he is not the human being that he would like to be, because he's just been hiding basically and not doing what he would love, or being the person that he would love to be. So that character is pretty nice, it's interesting, I loved it. But then we have this other character that since the very beginning, since the get-go, he's beating another guy, almost killing another guy. He's a jackass, and you can see the comparison between these two characters, because one of them has had it rough. I mean, both of them have had a not a great life. They've had really awful things happen to them, but the way that one is dealing with is self-isolating, and the other one is going out there and being an asshole into the world, and I do really not appreciate that. The other thing is that how are you going to make these two characters fall completely in love with each other in just 24 hours and make this huge tragedy is something that I do not care about. And that happens to me with a lot of books. I don't think that love is something that you can make happen in a really short period of time, because I don't think that's what love is about. I mean, you can like someone, but there's definitely a difference between liking someone, having a good time with someone, and loving them. So if this is going that way, I'm really gonna be angry. I really don't like the guy that's just rude. I think he just has anger issues. He's so angry with life, and it's funny because the guy that is shy doesn't have any friends. He doesn't want to tell anyone about the call that he's going to die. He doesn't want to put the burden in anyone else. But then the other guy that is really rude, I don't know, maybe you get that really, or I got that really bad impression from the first scene that we see him in, and maybe he is not as bad as I am thinking right now, but for now it really looks like that. And this really awful guy is just like telling everyone that he's gonna die, and everyone is there for him. And to me that sounds a little bit unfair, to be honest. How is that we have this really nice guy alone in his room knowing that he's going to die, and we have this awful guy surrounded by friends? I don't know. Anyways, the story in the book is that they go into an app that is specifically made for people that know they're going to die, to meet other people and sort of have a connection before they go, if that's what they wish to do. And that's it. I'm guessing that's how they will meet and hopefully not fall in love. Anyways, that's a little bit of what I've been reading. I don't know, I really don't want to continue reading the They Both Die at the end, like front to back. I don't want to just like read everything in one sitting, because I think that will just make me not happy about about the book. So I do want to read something else and then just go from one book to the other, and that way it will make it easier for me to read these. I thought it was going to be contemporary. I guess it kind of is, but I would say that it's also a little, it feels like dystopian, because there's another thing maybe the author will tell us, but from until the point that I have read, we don't know how the human race have managed to find out that someone is going to die in the next 24 hours. So that sounds interesting. That, to me, that part is more interesting than the love story. So we'll see if that actually gets answered or not, and if it is a satisfactory moment for me while I'm reading it. So what shall I read? I have my physical books here for the Magical Readathon. Maybe I'll get started with Doing Harm by Kelly Parsons. This is going to be my Muggle Studies book. It sounds really cool. This is a thriller, and I don't know much about it, but I picked this one up because Stephen King recommended it. I mean, every single time that Stephen King says a book is really good, I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. So I'll use that as my Muggle Studies course. I guess I will catch back up with you when I read a little bit more and when I have more thoughts and things about the books that I'm reading. Well, hi again, everyone. It might look like I spend a lot of time with eye patches in my face, which might be actually true, but I just want to thankfully say that I am really, really enjoying Doing Harm by Kelly Parsons. Oh my god, this is just so good. This is the best thing I've read for the Magical Readathon. No joke. I love this so much. I started and I just can't stop. It's one of those books that you finish reading a chapter, you're just like, just one more chapter, right? It's actually 12 p.m., which means it's not day 5 anymore. I guess it's day 6. But this is so good. It's not just well written, but it's also really gripping, and you just can't stop reading. And yeah, I totally agree. There's a small thing, like a small paragraph that Stephen King wrote. It says terrifying OR scenes. Yes, I've only read a couple of them and they are great. I'm not a doctor, I don't know about medicine, but I do think that they are really well researched because everything makes so much sense. And yeah, characters with real texture, yes, for sure. We follow this surgeon. He's doing his residence, so he's not working, but he's training to be a doctor in this really amazing hospital, which is like the best hospital in the area. And he is doing really well, and he's just missing like a year to start working as an actual doctor, and he gets this amazing opportunity to stay there, which for him it's like a really, like a dream come true. And everything just starts to go sideways and bad and to suck. I mean, I'm almost a third way into the book and he's already killed a couple of patients. And he's not doing it on purpose. I thought this was going to be like a serial killer in disguise of a doctor, so a dude who would actually want to kill people. But it's not it. This guy is actually trying and doing his best, and things just sometimes don't turn out the way that he wants them to. So we're following him, and you know, things are not looking good for Steve. Things are going really bad and not looking that great. So I think I'm just gonna, I mean, it's already late, but I think I will just get into a really nice, relaxing bath. So relaxing, and just continue with my thriller, with my medical thriller. So relaxing, right? I've also been reading more of the They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera book, and I'm glad to report that is getting so much better. I'm liking it a little bit more, so definitely turning around. I was not loving it, I was not completely enjoying it, but I do have to say that I am actually so glad that I kept on reading, because things are getting better and I'm enjoying it a little bit more. The characters are starting to grow to me, and definitely I feel invested in it, which I did not realize before. But yes, I feel like this is gonna be a good one. I mean, just the ability to make characters that you get so into and that make you really want to know what happens to them and care about them as much is really great. So I am excited to continue with that, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and read my medical thriller because it is just so good.